So many 3D printers have been teased or launched this year, and we're not even halfway through 2024. Let's rank them. This one's going to be fun because you guys are going to have the opportunity to participate as well. So let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to the channel. As we said in the intro, there's been like well over a dozen machines teased and or launched in 2024, and I'm only barely starting to hear Justin Timberlake tell me, "It's gonna be me." So I wanted to go through and stack rank them. And while putting together our list for this and the whole stack rank thing, we found that we might be able to do a live voting poll. So in the description, you guys will actually be able to put your own list and rank together. I still want you to put the printers in order in comments. So I'd love to know, did I get this right? Did I get it wrong? And why? What would you change? I want to do these more often. I think it's really cool to kind of look at printers, not only from what the specs say, but what history tells us with these companies. Before we get into ranking the printers 100%, let's go through them all. We have the OrangeStorm Giga from Elegoo. We have the Saturn IV Ultra, the Saturn IV, the Flashforge AD5M, the AD5M Pro, the Sovol SV08, the Frozen Arco. We have Creality Synthetic Marijuana, their K2 and K2 Plus with their CFS. We've got the Ender 3 V3 Plus, which I think came out in 2024. It's an Ender. I have no freaking idea anymore. The Anycubic Cobra 3 with their Ace Pro color engine, the Anycubic Photon Mono M7, the Comgrow T300, FLSUN's T1 and S1, the InfiMech TX, which looks like an AD5M Pro to me, FormLabs Form 4, which is a brand new 3D printer, and I'm really excited for that one, the Peopoly Magneto X, which we do actually have, Prusa's Pro AFS, and Prusa's Pro HT90. A lot of machines, a long video. Sit back, relax, leave a like, get subscribed, and let's rank some printers. Let's start off with the OrangeStorm Giga, a machine that launched on Kickstarter sometime kind of mid to late last year and is finally starting to ship units out to content creators, and I believe some of the regular machines are being shipped as well. This is one of the biggest, we'll go with affordable 3D printers on the market with an 800 by 800 by 1000 millimeter build volume. Like, it is almost the size of Joel Telling. That's a big deal because Joel's a big guy. But unfortunately, the OrangeStorm Giga has been wrought with quality control issues, with multiple users having the nozzles just dig into their build plate. And these just aren't your first time users. These are people that have a lot of experience with 3D printing. So I'm a little worried there, especially when one of their bullet points says high quality craftsmanship. It is Clipper. It does do multi-nozzle printing. It is not an IDEX that can do up to 4 nozzles. And while it is an 800XY bed, it uses 4 individual beds with 4 individual heaters, all from the Neptune 4 Max. And in theory, this machine looked to be really cool. But unfortunately, in practice, it kind of fell a little bit flat. So for me, it's a C tier printer at this time. I think if Elegoo is able to kind of fix this and adjust the issues they have with this machine, we might creep up into B tier, but I think for right now, C tier, maybe even D tier. I don't believe this machine is really ready for prime time. And you know what? Because of that, actually going to list it as a D tier machine. I think it's fixable, and I want to give it a C. It's like a C minus D plus. So I'm going to put it in the D for right now. We might be changing that. Next up is the Saturn IV Ultra, which to me is really where Elegoo tends to have a bit of a stride here, right? I love my OG Saturns. I love the OG Jupiters that we have. And, well, the Saturn IV Ultra brings answers to a lot of the problems that I've had with my Saturns. One of the big thing being the freaking lid actually tilts up now rather than having to come off of the printer. If you run resin printers in a farm environment, they have to be on the top shelf because you have to be able to get the whole freaking lid off. They've got an AI camera with real-time monitoring and time-lapsing, and this machine also has this self-check and automatic leveling so that you can print right out of the box. Super, super cool. With a much easier build plate design that is easy to lock in and easy to remove. Something that's reminiscent of FormLabs, which we're going to be checking out their stuff here in just a bit. The Saturn IV Ultra at $400 brings so many features, including that tilt, where the actual bed will tilt down to help release everything. Cobb and Fresnel lens, AI monitoring, mechanical sensors for better bed leveling, a 10-inch 12K screen, auto leveling, so many things that you'd like to see in a resin printer. And for me, one of the big things, the freaking lid just tilts back rather than has to pull off. So in a farm environment, so much easier. $400 price point. Honestly, Saturn IV Ultra, for right now, just looking at it, it's going into S tier. I do not regret for a second buying my OG Saturns at $500 a piece. But I want to get rid of them, even though they all still work, to buy this Ultra. This machine is super cool. And the Saturn IV as well, which is same, but different. It misses a lot of the AI stuff, and I'm not entirely certain that it has the whole VAT tilt thing as well. You can save, what is it, $100? Yeah, $100 if you're just looking for a relatively simple machine. It still has the lid that tilts open like that. I do really like the green over the gray. As long as they both block out UV light, it really doesn't matter ultimately, but this is super cool. I like to see that Elegoo is offering a more affordable price range here for machines like this. So if you have a Saturn and you'd like to replace it, but maybe you don't have the money for the Ultra, you can spend $300 is so cheap for what you get with these printers. Like, sincerely cheap. The build volume is great. 218 by 122 by 220. Exactly the same as the Ultra. Super freaking cool. I'm gonna rank the Saturn IV up with the Saturn IV Ultra. I might even rank it higher because its price point is likely to sell more units. That is such an aggressive price point. I don't know if that price is going to be a long-term price, but right now it is $300. That is so dang cheap. We've got what our Discord server has coined the Poverty P1P, the Flashforge Adventurer 5M, or the AD5M. My brother has one. I did reach out for review units, never heard back, but my brother absolutely loves his AD5M, and so many people in our Discord love it as well. It is, however, a little bit limited. It is limited in the fact that it doesn't have a ton of storage and it doesn't have a ton of RAM. And because of that, the Clipper version that it runs is not really bone stock Clipper. It's Flashforge's ridiculous forked Clipper that doesn't work amazingly well and currently has issues with software and things like that. That really only matters if you're trying to print via Wi-Fi or anything like that. If you print via USB or flash drive or whatever it needs, then none of that matters to you. But, you know, you can't easily put bone stock Clipper. I believe one person has figured it out and they posted a video on it. I do like this machine. I haven't actually gotten to use my brother's yet. That's kind of on my docket to take care of at this point, because they're nice machines at a $300 price point. We've seen them as low as $200 on, I think it might have been an Amazon misprice, but the $400 price point, it's pretty much always $300. It is a 220 cube, so it's a little bit on the smaller side, but it is crazy fast. I will say a current bummer that we have right now with the machine is that you can't get hardened nozzles in a 0.4. They only come in a 0.6. We don't know why, but that's the way it goes for the AD5M. It's very similar to the Pro, which we're going to check out in just a second, but I will say if you need a cheap printer and you want something that's fast, every single person in our Discord that has one of these has had a phenomenal experience with it. However, the fact that it can't run bone stock Clipper, not easily, and so far Flashforge is kind of, iffy at best on the open source with Clipper and having it be merged into the main line. It's going to have to be here for me. The AD5M Pro, that's the enclosed version. It's the Poverty P1S, right? I mean, let's not beat around the bush. It's basically what it is. It is $500. In my opinion, it is not worth the extra $200 for the fully enclosed printer, especially when the vast majority of people that are going to get printers in this price class are really buying them for PLA and PETG, things that don't really benefit from an enclosure like this. Again, it's based on that same platform, so it's got good bones, if you will, but I don't know if the added price point is worth it. This has been the current issue for me with this machine, is how much more expensive it is over its skinned and on the hardcore diet crazy brother. So because of that, it's gonna go B tier for me. It's not a bad printer, but the value that the AD5M has is not really the same for me with the AD5M Pro. Next up is the Sovol SV08. It is a Voron 2.4-ish. And ish is the current problem with this. My buddy Nero did a kind of a teardown of this, looked at it, did a kind of first look, and found some things that he wasn't exactly okay with. And while there have been other reviewers that have had good experiences with it, and heck, some saying it's the best printer they've ever tried, Nero pointed out a lot of quality issues that he noticed with the machine. And I have to believe here that Nero is one of the better informed individuals to comment on this, because he's a part of the Voron design team. And while we've watched a lot of other content on this machine as well, I always come back to what Nero has been pointing out with the belts, with the pins and things like that. In fact, we talked about this recently in Print Fix Friday. We'll card to that episode if you guys did miss it and want to check it out. I have hope for this machine. At $550, it's a pretty good value for that size of a printer, especially if you can integrate one of these Clipper-based AMS clones that we're going to be checking out here in a little bit. I worry that you as the user might have to make a lot of upgrades yourself. But at $550, if you have to make a few little upgrades and it can run very similarly to a Voron 2.4, which is often at least 4x that price, there might be some value to that. Unfortunately, where this printer sits today, it doesn't land all that high for me. And I'm gonna put it in the middle of the road, put it as a B tier machine. It has the ability to get to A, and quite frankly, if Sovol can make this machine like they made the SV06 and SV06 Plus, I might even give it the coveted S tier. But for right now, they've got some improvement to do. I'm hoping that they make it and we can kind of look at this in a few months and this machine can get a higher vote. The Phrozen Arco, really the first competitor to kind of announce a machine that is, does it look familiar to anybody? Again, let's not beat around the bush. It's a Bambu clone with an AMS clone. Up to 16 color AMS. Boy, I wonder where they got that from. 300mm build volume. That's a good size for a machine like this. Remember that X1 Carbon, P1S, and P1P are all 256 cube. So 300 cube gives you that extra 2 inches or so. And I do a lot for extra 2 inches. I do like this machine, but I haven't seen anybody get it other than my buddies over at Slice Engineering. They took a look at it. In fact, they're working with Phrozen to make nozzles and stuff for it, which I think is super cool. They did a video on it. We'll card to it so you guys can take a look. I like that it's got Clipper, 30,000 millimeters per second squared acceleration. This is all kind of marketing stuff to me. I like the multicolor stuff. Multicolor's going to be the big thing that happens this year. We're going to see a lot of companies come out with AMSs or variants of it. And while Phrozen is doing their own self-developed FDM slicer, my hope is that they're going to also integrate into Orca Slicer. Does kind of look like Orca Slicer, kind of looks like Prusa Slicer. I would really like to see this thing succeed. However, I don't know for sure if it's going to perform. I like that it's got a big build volume. I like the AMS that it's got, but I hope that we're not going to cut corners. And unfortunately, we still don't know where its price point is going to be. And without really knowing a price point, I'm a little hesitant to give this machine a really high ranking. Phrozen has done really well on their resin printers. I have to kind of hope here that that knowledge has been poured into their FDM, and because of that, I'm gonna stick it at an A. It's an A- for me. Next up, synthetic marijuana. I mean, the Creality K2 Plus. I really wish people would think about the names of their printers. Unfortunately, this machine is not available on Creality's website. Like, I can't find it. It's not there. So I don't know anything about this machine other than the video that Sam Prentice put out and some of the other videos that a couple of others have put out. It's got a CFS, the Creality Filament System, and it uses RFID technology to identify filament. Hopefully it's not locked to those filaments. I like the screen on it. That is nice. That will give you some temperatures and humidity readings likely. Bonus points if there is a filament dryer in there. I'm not certain if it is, but the K2 Plus, looking at the photo, is a 350 cube. That is a spicy 3D printer. In fact, that is almost the size of our 5-tool head Prusa XL. And knowing Creality, it's going to be priced competitively. But knowing Creality, I don't really know how good this machine is going to be. We had a K1 come in for service from just an individual that found us online, and it was a really tough machine to service. Hidden screws inside of circuit boards. So you had to like get an Allen key through a circuit board, then pull the screw out somehow. It was really tough to service that machine. I hope that they've made those changes on the K2 and the K2 Plus, but the idea is that you shouldn't have to do this, right? You shouldn't have to service it, but the reality is you will, right? You will have to service it. It looks like they've got a poop chute. Very original. I've never seen that on a 3D printer before. I want to believe that Creality, hopefully with the help of Sam. Guys don't know the real Sam Prentice. He's a buddy. We're supposed to dance at some point. We've never done that. You owe me a dance, damn it. But he's been working with them very closely. And I like to believe that with all of Sam's experience, not only building droids and building big models, but his experience with 3D printing, working with Bambu and working with other companies, that he has and can influence the decisions of Creality to make a higher quality machine. Because of the totality here, and because I'm a little bit worried, I've got to, it's a B tier. And because I can't find any photos of the K2, I just cropped out the CMS. So K2 is going to get a C, K2 Plus is going to get a B. Both of those could move up one tier if Creality can get it right. To me though, the big thing here is that CFS. If it is truly Clipper compatible and you could put this CFS onto any Clipper-based 3D printer, I would separate the CFS and put it into an S tier. Like, just straight up, I would do that. But we don't have confirmation of that. Because, let's be real, the biggest thing holding back some of the Vorons out there from being able to compete with Bambu and multicolor is the Enraged Rabbit Carrot Feeder is not a great system. I know the 2.0 is coming out. I just finally got our Voron running. It's a long story. The stream is gone. It might be back eventually, but right now the stream is gone. It's a long story. It was 8 hours. I don't want to talk about it right now. But if you could just put a multi-material, multicolor system on it that is Clipper compatible, that to me is ideal. Next up is the Ender 3v3 Plus. It's bigger. It's an Ender. It's one of like 30 SKUs in the Ender 3 line. I don't know how I feel about this printer. I want to like this printer. It uses Core XZ, which is interesting. It's basically Core XY, but it's in the X and Z axis. But it's another Ender 3. I was trying to figure out the price point, but the buy now button doesn't work. They say it's optimized for print farms. I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of print farms are moving toward Core XY style rather than bed slingers. I think there's a lot more value in the bed slingers themselves. I don't like the naming scheme. It feels like it's deliberately confusing. And unless it is priced very similarly to the AD5M, I know that it's bigger, but if it's not priced similarly to the AD5M, it's gonna be a C tier printer for me. It's gotta be cheap. And I understand the size is bigger, but I don't know. It looks like it might be able to have the CFS, and if there's a good price point with the CFS, it might belong in a B tier. But again, I'm really worried about the Ender line getting so kind of bloated. It's a little too confusing. We've got the Anycubic Cobra 3 combo. So it is a bed slinger with a multicolor unit. Anycubic is doing it differently. They have actually partnered with Pantone. Love them or hate them, that's actually a cool thing, and puts this printer pretty high up in the list for me. I'm not a huge fan of bed slingers at this point unless the price point is very, very aggressive. We do see that they're basically just Ender clones, or basically just Prusa clones at the end of the day. The Cobra 3 does not appear to be very different in that. I do like the multicolor. If that multicolor can be separate, that goes straight to S tier. But similar to Creality, it's gonna stick middle of the road for me in the B tier. Next up is the Anycubic Mono M7. I do prefer Elegoo printers for resin. We have been standardized on Elegoo here for a while, and that might just be some of my inherent biases of having really good experiences with the Elegoo machines that we've had. The M7 does appear to be interesting, specifically because of the speed. It is incredibly fast. So Elegoo is claiming 70 millimeters per hour. These guys are claiming up to, with regular resins, 130. So basically double that. And because of that, we're going S tier, and I'm sorry, Elegoo Saturn, you're going down to A tier. I think that's a fair knock. We don't yet know the price, which is a bit of a concern for me. And I don't know if it's gonna stay at an S tier. If the price is not competitive, it does not stay in an S tier and will get dropped down to an A or a B tier. I like the speed here, and that's why they're going to get an S tier from me, but I am a little worried about the price. So that one will be heavily subject to change. Comgrow, which is now Sovol, with the T300, 300 by 300 by 350. It's another bed slinger. It's nice that it's all enclosed. I do like that. We have a T500, which we will be looking at here relatively soon, that Comgrow sent a long time ago, and I have not gotten to it. We will get to it. At $500, it does not rustle my jimmies in a meaningful way. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know, in fact, I can't put it in the same class as the V3. So I think it's got to go down to D tier. It's so expensive. I don't think that the market really has a home for this at this price point. At $500, you're competing with Bambu A1 territory with an AMS. And I get that it's like 50 millimeters larger, but I don't know if 50 millimeters is worth losing the 4 colors. You know what I mean? I don't know. What do you guys think about that one? I might be a little harsh on Comgrow and Sovol here. I don't know. FLSUN has the T1 and the S1. These are their newest Delta printers that they're coming out with. And honestly, I'm kind of excited about them. They're using CPAP turbofans for cooling, so you're getting really, it's going to be noisy. Like, it's going to be noisy, but really good cooling. It's like a rebirth of your Delta printing, and I'm kind of here for it. The build volume's a little small, 260 diameter by 300 tall, with the S1 coming in at 320 by 430. And, well, yeah, that's just a better deal for me. Realistically, I think that the screen should be on the top. Most printers like this are going to end up on the floor because they're really tall and they don't fit well onto shelves like we would run in our shop. Well, if the screen's on the bottom, it's kind of a pain in the butt to get to. So maybe a detachable screen would be a nice add-on. I don't know if either of them have it. Well, this one clearly doesn't. We have reached out to FLSUN to get specifically the S1, but I would look at both. But I definitely want to look at the S1 with its multi-zone heating, which is nice. That way, if you're doing a smaller print, it would be better for it. It's got integrated filament drying, which is a great use of that extra space that Deltas unfortunately have to have. But I would say this is a awakening of Delta printers again. And talking with my buddy Mitch, who a lot of you know as the backpack printer guy, he is excited for these two. He's a Delta printing fanatic. If Mitch likes it, well, I like it too. And because of that, the S1 is gonna get an A tier from me. The T1 is gonna go down to a B tier. It's a little small. And at that small size, you're still dealing with a pretty tall printer overall, and it makes it a much harder sale, if you will, for me, with a machine like this. Total height is 836 millimeters. The damn thing's almost 3 feet tall. And we look at the S1, it's over a meter tall. That's a big printer. For reference, the shelves behind me are 19 inches apart. I need more than double that to fit the S1 and almost double that to fit the T1. The T1 is not much larger than the machines that are on the shelf behind me. I do like Delta printers, but the trade-off is they take up a ton of space. They are some of the most beautiful machines to watch, right? The 3 arms moving an end effector is chef's kiss beautiful, though. InfiMech TX. It is an AD5M Pro for $300 from the company Flying Bear. We looked at their Reborn 2. It was an okay printer. We had some problems with it. It has been sitting. We're going to look to clipperize it as I slowly learn Clipper. That's been a challenge. But this 220 by 220 by 250 bigger in the Z, $300. If it is anything like the AD5M and AD5M Pro, you are gonna squarely go up in the A tier. If it is not like them, it quickly goes down to C tier for me. I'm gonna put it in the A tier because it is running Clipper-ish. I did like the build quality of the Reborn 2, and if their build quality is anything like it was back then, we're gonna like this one too. The FormLabs Form 4. A machine that very few saw coming, and I'm actually really excited for. This is FormLabs' kind of first foray outside of moving laser 3D printers. This is an MSLA resin 3D printer that uses the FormLabs wiper. In fact, you can see it going across the screen there. The wiper is the big deal. It helps stir the resin around. FormLabs is very squarely in the small business, light industrial market for resin 3D printing. We can see that they're 1 hour and 38 minutes on the Form 4, 3 hours 37 on the benchmark FDM, and that same part would be almost 11 hours on the Form 3 Plus. Yes, MSLA is that much faster. You get beautiful detail from it. They've released affordable resins. I dig it. In fact, recently, Matter Hackers became a strategic alliance, I guess, with FormLabs as they acquired Source Graphics, a company that does some 3D printing, but they were initially a 2D printing company based on my understanding. I have a feeling it had a lot to do with this. I really like this machine. I like the FormLabs ecosystem. It is expensive, and I know a lot of you are going to say, but Grant, it's so expensive. Yes, it is expensive, but when you look at business class printers, that ecosystem is really, really, really important. And because of that, the Form 4 goes up to the A tier. Speaking of business class printers is the Magneto X, a machine that I beta tested, and I actually like it, but it's got some growing pains. It's got some growing pains. Peopoly is working on it, and I want to really love this machine a lot more than I do. To me, this has the potential of being the best business class machine under $2,000, full stop. And that's a big freaking deal. However, it is still lagging on the software side. It is the fastest printer that I've ever used with how heavy that it is. It is over 1 kilo of moving mass that we had up at 1,250 millimeters per second at 35,000 acceleration, if I'm correct. I mean, this thing is absolutely nutter butters. This machine for me squarely fits into A tier. You can see it's a diamond in the rough, and if I need to send the freaking thing to the Diamondback team to get them to polish it up, then I will, because they know all about diamonds. If Peopoly, or I should say when, Peopoly can solve some of my gripes with this machine, it very squarely goes into S tier. I want it in S tier, and in fact, I'm gonna put it in S tier, because I have faith that they're going to do this. In talking with Peopoly, they've been so incredibly responsive to all of the criticisms that we have had, all of the feedback that we have had, that I am incredibly happy with what they've done. It gets an S tier mark for me. This one I would show you guys, but it's only kind of been randomly teased on Twitter. There is a large Bambu printer coming out. We know nothing about it other than they've just put out some teasers about it, and I know I'd get flamed if I didn't include it. I have had a rough experience with Bambu. This has been of no quiet from my end. I've absolutely dug my heels in with them. Their data collection policy is wrong. They are actively misleading consumers on that, and it bothers me. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we detailed exactly what's in a log file, and we'll card to that video. It is not monetized. We didn't make any money on that video. That video was simply to show you exactly what's in there, good, bad, indifferent, and ugly. There is a lot in that log file that just strictly doesn't matter. But there are a couple of things in there that directly contradict what Bambu Lab themselves says that they do and don't collect. And I've got a problem with it. However, I am not the average consumer of a Bambu Lab 3D printer. See, because if it was me, they're getting a C tier. Because I know there's going to be something shady. I guess I don't know it, I feel it. I feel like there's going to be something shady, and I would love to be proven wrong. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't hate Bambu. I hate the way they do things. Because they're very reactionary and not proactive. Look at the A1 with the bed replacement. They had to now have users jump through all these hoops to replace the bed in the EU, which is what they should have done in the first place. But it's been a big headache for them, and I hope they learn their lesson. I believe that Bambu understands what it takes to build a good 3D printer. Outside of QA and QC issues that I have had, I know that I stand in a very vocal minority. And because of that, they're getting an S tier. And I know not a lot of you are thinking, it's an X1 carbon photo. Do not get all twisted on this. It's an X1 carbon photo. I promise it's the same thing. But they are launching a bigger printer. I don't know if we will buy it. At this point, the data collection thing is just too much. For the kind of work that we do, it's a problem. For the kind of work that you do, it probably isn't. If you work with NDAs or you work in government, you probably weren't looking at Bambu anyways. And if you did and have, read your NDAs is all I gotta say. But I think for the average consumer, Bambu has shaken up the market so much that look at half of the printers on this list. They all look like Bambus. And because of that, the king has to sit at the top. They get an S tier. There are a few more, and I will put them in, but I don't know exactly how everyone is going to feel about it. Let's get them. We have the AFS Pro, or the Prusa Pro AFS. I have seen this machine in this exact room, in this exact configuration. That video is coming out soon, where we spoke with Tommy from Prusa, and we talked all about AFS. It is very obviously a business class machine. It is a print farm on steroids, with an arm that detects everything about your printers, can load and unload build plates for you, and start the next job automatically. The AFS is incredibly expensive. It is designed for businesses, schools, education, government, that kind of stuff. The build volume is kind of weird, 260 by 260 by 170. But when you're looking at a print farm application, that actually fits the bulk of what we would be printing in a print farm application. I do wish the machines had a taller build volume, but it is super cool having seen this machine in person. My understanding that the price for this machine is somewhere near $100,000, although it is very subject to change. I really like this machine and would actively consider it for my business, but I know the vast majority of you are not. I think it's a really cool machine, but its price point makes it difficult. For me, I rank it at an A tier, but I know the vast majority of you are going to rank it closer to a C. For me, because it's a business and industrial class machine, it is, to be clear, at even $150,000, it is still half the price of anything in that range. So that's a big freaking deal. I'm going to put it at an A tier. Then we have the HT90, a machine that is, well, kind of based off of a TriLab machine, which Prusa acquired TriLab a while back. It's a cool machine, and they could do some hardcore stuff, including peak, PEC, and Ultem. That is all high temp material, S tier machines, S tier filaments. It's an S tier machine. And at around 10 grand, it very, very well fits in the S tier for me. Now, I know you might say, Grant, but you ranked other Deltas a lot lower. I will, because they are not capable of what this machine is capable of. The HT90 has a lot of value in business and industrial. At 10 grand, it swipes the floor with pretty much anything in that price class for being able to print peak, PEC, and Ultem. So there you have it. I would love to know your guys' thoughts down in those comments below, and in the description, we will have my entire ranking. I want to know your rankings as well. We'll put the list of the printers in the description, copy that, paste it into a comment, and tell me where you would rank everything. We're going to try to share this so you guys can mess with it as well. I don't exactly know how well it's going to work, but I will say you should probably put an ad blocker on because this website has a lot of ads. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you want to see these more often, let me know. But so many freaking printers have come out. Let's go through this one more time. Saturn 4 Ultra, Photon Mono M7. This is the Magneto X, the new Bambu HT90, all S tier. Saturn 4, AD5M, Phrozen Arco, S1, the TX from Flying Bear, Form 4 AFS, all A tier. The B tier has got our AD5M Pro, the SV08, the Creality K2 Plus with the color thing, the Anycubic Cobra 3 with the Ace Pro color combo, and the FLSUN T1. C tier has the K2 and the Ender 3 V3 Plus. And unfortunately, in the D tier, we have the OrangeStorm Giga and the T300. I would love to know what you guys think. Did I get this right? Did I get it wrong? I would love to know in those comments below. Thank you to those that do support us. Leave a like, get subscribed if you haven't. That is all I have for you guys today. Thank you to all of our channel member supporters, whose name is listed right next to me, $5 tier and higher. Thank you all for watching. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one.